Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
It's 5:31. We need to call this meeting to order. Dix, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As all of you out there can see, we're wearing our jackets. It's a little chilly, but we're glad to be here. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Let me just take a quick peek again at it, and I apologize. Yeah, I think I'd just like to put the early release discussion on there.
Okay,
Sorry, I
under
missed
new
that.
business?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we'll put that as B.
B.
Anything else? Jason, do you have anything? Any adjustment?
No.
I'm sorry, Andy, I cut you off too.
No, I was good. I'm sorry. I mumbled there. So
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I think it's Jason Benson that's here, Jim McAuliffe, and Priscilla Lambert, so we have a quorum. All right, if there are no other adjustments, communication and public comment. Since we have a budget update under number 7, if anyone has something that needs to come under that, I will let you also speak for public comment at that time. So other than that, is there any other communication and public comment? Or did you see anything at all?
Nobody's speaking. I'm not
No? Okay, all right, so next step is to approve the minutes from December 6th.
I'll move approval.
Thank you. Are there any corrections? Okay, if not, let me call the vote. Jason?
Yes.
Okay. Jim?
Aye.
Okay, those have been approved. Thank you. Reports by the principals. So let's let you go first.
Thank you, Priscilla. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time this evening. First of all, we had very successful parent-teacher conferences. Just about every single parent had an opportunity to speak with their children's teachers. That was hugely successful. And I'm sure you all know by the letters that Andy has been sending out about COVID case counts. The middle school has had, I think, 27 or 28 positive cases of COVID just since December 1st. We have, we've had as many as 32 out on quarantine at a time. Today, we were in the mid-20s out quarantining. Nurse Kat continues to test to stay for identified students every morning in the gym. Last week, we had as many as between 70, 75 students in the gym being tested to stay. This morning, we were down to about 12 to 15. So each morning when the buses and parents' cars roll in, I have a sheet of paper. I identify the students that have to test to stay, send them into the gym to Nurse Kat, where she does the testing. I hand out probably about 100 to 125 masks on any given day to students who don't have to test to stay, go right to the cafeteria, grab a breakfast, and go to their advisory. So it's been extremely busy with COVID test to stay and positive cases. Would also like to say that we put up a holiday tree in the front office, and our people who work in the building have been extraordinarily generous. And today, Megan Applegate came by and picked up all of the wrapped gifts that our staff has brought in, that included books and toys and socks and games for children in the community that could benefit from those over the holiday season. We also have put up a food box in the lobby, and we're collecting food that will also be distributed to our friends and neighbors so they can have some food over the holiday. And this past Friday, Mr. Kelly, our 7th grade social studies teacher, invited 2 members of the local National Guard to bring a massive 8-ton Humvee to the school and to meet with the students, because his students in 7th grade social studies had most recently been studying the Green Mountain Boys, and one of the students had actually gone to Joann Fabrics, bought all the fabric, and actually sewed a Green Mountain Boys flag and presented that to the National Guard. And so they were with us for a little over an hour or so, and they talked about, the National Guard and how when they are on deployment anywhere in the world, they take the Green Mountain Boys flag with them, and it's posted wherever they're stationed. And they were very, very, very happy to meet the students, and they were very appreciative of them not only studying the National Guard, but the Green Mountain Boys, and to see the flag. The kids were super excited. They got to climb all over the Humvee and sit in the driver's seat and have their pictures taken. So at a later date, I'll post some pictures. There was a report in the Reformer with some pictures as well. So it was a really great opportunity for our students. We currently have 234 students enrolled at this time. 2 weeks ago, we had 5 brand new students join us on one day. So that's all I have to report. Priscilla, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you or other members of the board might have. Thank you so much.
Any questions, Jason?
One of the areas that I'm very interested in is, and this is for all of the teachers, all of the principals, is the process of teacher evaluations. And so I would like at a future meeting to have each of you give us an update on how and when you do the evaluations. And I know that when I got off the board, one of the big hot topics was the ability for teachers to teach to many different levels of learning skills. There's a buzzword for that, I can't think of it. Differentiated instruction. And I was at a meeting recently with the superintendent, and got the sense that we hadn't really progressed that far in terms of proficiency in that area, in the differentiated instruction. So that's another area that I, obviously in connection with the evaluations, how you're monitoring that, and how you're dealing with teachers that are dragging their feet on that kind of very essential educational techniques.
So through the chair, my administrative colleagues, along with Andy and Stacy at the district office, we've been working this first half of the year with some outside consultants in designing a new walkthrough template and document Observe for Success. We, in fact, as principals, met briefly this afternoon to discuss that briefly. We are planning to roll out that document and the process after the holidays. Of course, whenever you're talking supervision and evaluation, it's incumbent to involve the local union and make sure that we're not stepping outside of the negotiated agreement or the CBA. And so we're at the point right now of polishing off that instrument, and we are beginning to put a plan into place for walkthrough observations during the beginning with the new year, and also an annual summative evaluation at the end of the school year. So you're pretty spot on with the timing, and I feel comfortable with the document we have thus far, and really happy that it's a collaborative process that we as administrators with Andy and Stacy and others have developed, and in collaboration with the local union, so that we're not violating the negotiated agreement. Andy, I'll turn it over to you if there's anything I've left out. Thank you.
Is that at a level that can be shared with the board, or are you still working on that?
I think we need to tweak a little bit, and then I think at our next meeting, we'd be happy to share it with you.
Okay.
But one of the things that prior to Mr. Pratt's him leaving, we had begun the conversation of moving away from the old, I'll call it the dog and pony show, where you sit down with the teacher and what are we going to teach today? Then I go in and you see exactly what you told me you're going to teach. And then so we wanted to move to a more authentic process, which is going in and you're observing like up to 10 minutes at a time, and you vary that time. It's based on Kim Marshall's work. And it's much more reflective of true practice of a teacher, and gives you a better sense of evaluation. And so just as Sue said, we kind of began the year looking at that template, and it's just taking time to get that on board. So we're working towards that, and it'll all be implemented this year after the new year. So.
I'm intrigued with the reference to the union. Does the union have a problem with teachers being able?
Nope. The CBA
Okay.
kind of alludes to the collaboration piece, and making, so we just want to make sure that we're not doing anything, it's not a surprise that we want to be partners with our teachers on the evaluation piece. And so we're not trying, like I said, we're not trying to catch anyone. We just want to make sure that they're aware of the process, because it will be a change in our practice. Of course, principals are in the classroom all the time, and they've been in the classroom, so we feel comfortable with, the evaluation, and we talked about doing a summative evaluation too, which hasn't been happening that much.
So it sounds like it's very much like the principals previously were in the classroom, but not writing down and documenting observations to be put in an evaluation. But still working to improve instruction that way, but not formally. So now you're going to make it a formal process.
And the tool that we're looking at using through Observe for Success is allowing us to align practice across the SU. So what Sue will be looking for here in the building, in the middle school building, will be very similar to what Laura or Carrie is looking for in their building. So that way we can look at our practice and see we have areas that we need to, as administration, support all of our teachers. And there'll be the individual supports that we need to provide, but still that piece. Are we missing a piece? And so we can coordinate that. And so that's the purpose of the tool, is to give us that continuity across the SU.
And it's part of the purpose also to find problems quicker, if there are any, and that way provide more support so that maybe your teachers can improve faster than what they would have
I think ultimately, yes, that is the goal, it's always to, how fast can we get in? And again, the continual in a classroom, providing that feedback, quick feedback, because the tool also allows us a quicker feedback to teachers, moves away, as I say, from that we're going to come in 2 times a year and just sit down and observe you twice. We're going to observe you throughout the whole year. And so even with where we are right now getting this tool launched, we're talking about a minimum of 5 times in a classroom between now and the end of the school year. So it provides a lot more repetition in the classroom.
A better handle on what's going on.
Yep.
Okay. Are there other questions? So I had one. You have 234 students. Do you know at this point what we're looking at as far as vaccinated students?
No, I don't have that number for you, Priscilla. I can reach out to Kat in the morning and see if we can get a number for you. I apologize.
And so the reason for asking is with the 85%, we could get an incentive grant. I think it's $15 per student. So I'm kind of, hoping that we can ramp that up a little bit, because it would be nice for our students to have that chunk of change to be able to find something they'd really like to do and spend it on. Absolutely.
I completely agree. I'll get you the numbers. I can safely say that we're nowhere near 85% at this point. But I'll get you the exact numbers, Priscilla.
But something to work for at least.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that. Also, thank you for contacting so that we got into the building easier. Okay. Carrie, are you ready? Let you be on there.
Hi, yes. How are you?
You had an interesting day.
It was very interesting. So for those of you who are not familiar, we have the building across the street, the YMCA church building at 66 Atkinson Street that is coming down. And so it's been a lot of demolition today. Our students at Central are remote today and tomorrow, Monday and Tuesday, as we wait more information about the demolition process. So a shout out to Chuck Wise, Jim DeBell, so many other people that were helping us keep our students safe and planning. Andy Haas and Megan Applegate and I went to a meeting on Thursday just to kind of meet with the town planners and the construction company to make sure that we were able to get all the information for the process today. So it's going as predicted. The crane is in place. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's live streamed from Fact TV. And it's moving along quickly. So hopefully before the end of the week, you'll see, sadly, it's sad the building is leaving, but at the same time, the debris will be cleaned up and the crane may be out of place tomorrow, or at least by Wednesday. So, and then it's cleanup for that. Move on to the rest of the updates if you're ready for that. So right now we have 153 students. We have 2 more students that'll be joining us the January 3rd. We do want to do a big shout out to Chroma, the Elks, and so many other supporters for our donations. We've had a lot of gifts for students, snow pants, coats, boots, and a lot of other things that students need, hats and gloves and things. So we really, really appreciate the support for that. We as a school were able to donate boxes of food and bags of food. So our community engagement committee worked on that as a donation to our place. So we're very pleased with our families for their donations and staff. Our latest students that we had right now, we have a new kindergartner this month and then a 4th grader. And then we're also getting a 4th grader and a 2nd grader again in January. And as we said before, we had the vaccine clinic. So they had about 165 students and staff who were vaccinated. So it's about a third or so of our staff, of our student population that are vaccinated right now. We're waiting, and we do ask families if they have been vaccinated outside at other clinics or their doctor's offices to let Nurse Jen know, so we can get the numbers updated as soon as possible. We do sadly have a lot of increase of COVID cases. So right now we have 3 classrooms that are doing tests to stay, a 4th grade, a 2nd grade, and a kindergarten. We just had a 3rd grade and a first grade, excuse me, who were also tested staying last week and the week before. So Nurse Jen, and we also welcomed Millie Barry, who's new to our health office. She's an assistant working with Nurse Jen. She and Judy Cray and many others are busy every day doing test to stay so we can keep our students in school. We appreciate their support for that. Sadly, again, we did have 11 more cases last week reported alone. So we have been very busy contact tracing, working with the Department of Health and getting everybody up to date on what's happening for the contact tracing. Again, as always, a shout out to Nurse Jen for all that she does and all the staff at our school. They were working heroically to keep everybody in school and as safe as possible. So we are still looking for an after school coordinator for the SU and then school specific. Each place is working for our after school program. And we do have some staff that are joining us. And so Grace Warriors, and then also, excuse me, for Fallon Vancor, who has joined our school as a staff member, substitute teacher, and then also is on the after school program. So we're grateful to have them there. And we've been working on our literacy coaching model and really getting some staff supported, working with Janie Davey in the last few weeks on doing some modeling in the classrooms and getting everybody up to date on the latest strategies in reading in their classrooms. As Sue was mentioning, our parent conferences are just about done. There are a few. We do ask families that have not done their conference to reach out to their teachers. They've had the times extended, and so we do want to have everybody meet with their families. And there's only a few left, so we appreciate that. We are also appreciative of Amy Rawling, who's been working as our Tier 2 Zen Den. It's a newly created area to make sure our students are in need of support. We have our WIN classroom, which is a Tier 3 level, and this is a Tier 2 model for students that just need a little bit of break or a little bit of reset before they head back to class. We do have peace corners in each classroom, and students are able to take a break in that spot. We try and encourage them to stay in the classroom, but when they need a break to come out of the classroom for a few moments, get themselves regulated and go back to class, we're working on that system as well. Carrie Newton is doing a fabulous job as our restorative practice coordinator. She's helping our responsive classroom efforts, and we're modeling the restorative circles in each classroom, and then helping teachers use the tiered system of support and getting our students regulated. I do want to thank Jane Stewie and Peter Lowry, who has stepped up, and Kathy Miller was doing it as a substitute, as a crossing guard at the corners of Atkinson and School Streets. Right now, it'll be a little bit of a change on Wednesday. They'll be a little further north on the Oak Street and Atkinson Street while the construction's happening. So Wednesday and Thursday, just be ready to see a little bit of a change for where they're crossing. And again, we appreciate everybody, Chuck Wise, Scott Pickup from the town, Jim DeBell, and really getting everything ready to go to keep us safe during our construction and demolition, I should say. Pretty much about it. If there's any questions.
Jason, do you have any?
I do not. I just want to say thank you, Carrie, for the pictures today of the ongoing demolition.
You're
Quite
welcome.
interesting.
We have an interesting perspective, that's for sure.
Be curious to see going forwards what happens with that space.
Yes.
Jen, do you have any questions?
No, just the general issue of, we get our, the superintendent gives us a breakdown of the COVID cases on just about a daily basis. And, for the month of December, Rockingham is really sticking out like a sore thumb. And I know it's not because the administration isn't urging people to get vaccinated, but we really, the answer to this, or to dealing effectively with this, is to get vaccinated. And I don't know, I don't have a solution, but we need to, as a school board and as a school administration, we need to come up with some kind of guidelines that's legal, that encourages or requires children and staff to be immunized. So, as I said, we stand out so badly, even compared to Westminster and Grafton, in the high school even. We really are terrible. And so anyway, no solution, but
Andy?
This week, I think as Ms. Johnson pointed out, it's been extremely challenging for the middle school and Central. And last week was challenging for Saxons River. And I think, we're kind of seeing, like, I call them almost like blooms, and sometimes it has to do with siblings, and sometimes it has to do with, we hear about it after the fact that there might have been a sleepover, there was a birthday party, and those are the kind of activities that seem to kind of, let this virus just, spread amongst our kiddos. I do know that Westminster is going to be hosting a clinic in Saxons River right after the new year, and I'm going to say the 13th for you. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Sorry, to put you on the spot. Yeah, so Saxons River is going to, they'll have the first booster, or not the first booster, but the first round will be on the 13th. Westminster is going to be on the 11th. So, and originally how the Department of Health set those up, it was for the school, but they're actually open to anyone. They accept a pre-register, and they are targeted for the 12 and under. So we've had some great turnouts. I know, Carrie, I think your building was 35% vaccinated from it or something like that.
Just about 35%, yes.
Good boosts out of it. And, we're still talking with the Department of Health about how we can maybe have booster clinics and other, things for, those other gaps of years and stuff like that. And, I'm not sure where with the new variant where things are going to go, but I am worried about when we come back from Christmas and, fear of saying, don't go hang out with your loved ones, because that's, we need to do that, but we need to be careful too.
Now, Omicron has been found in Cheshire County in New Hampshire, and it's now in Burlington as well, a definite finding from it. So we are facing that from everybody coming in, and that's supposed to be very, very much more highly contagious. So, but a lot of our students have had it, so they are developing some immunity that way as well. So with the getting vaccinated and that coming, maybe we'll be better off in January. I'm really hopeful. No guarantees.
Just one more comment.
Sure.
I think one of the other challenges that we've really faced is and I'll say the abuse from parents when our faculty has had to call home to let families know close contact or needing it to quarantine. And the nurses have taken the large brunt of it because they're the main contact, and administration has also taken it. And really it comes down to, just as you said, Jigs, getting vaccinated is going to be our biggest fight with this. And wearing masks and wearing masks even when you're not in school, and when you're with your friends and stuff like that. But we also have Test to Stay, and we have a lot of families who have unvaccinated children who still don't even want to participate in Test to Stay. And those are the options we have available to us. And if families are not going to do it, then the guidelines are that they quarantine. And it's a disruption, and we know it's a disruption, but we need families to partner with us as opposed to fighting with us, because, I don't want to speak for the nurses, but I've heard it from them, and I've heard it from our administrators. Where families have sworn at them, have just, really chastised them for just doing their jobs. And like I've said in some of my letters home, I mean, this is a battle, and we're all in it together, and nobody wants children to stay home. We're educators because we want kids to come to school, right? So, I mean, we need to, again, partner with our families. So.
The more
Well,
we
more,
can do.
we gotta, like I said, we've got to do more to encourage the partnerships, and then basically develop strategies for those that are going to be reluctant to get vaccinated. I think it's going to come down to that, because it's a no-win situation. It's a very tough situation. So
Yeah, it's nothing easy about this situation at all. We thought, and that's a large part of this, I think, because I know as school board members, we thought that this year was going to be back to normal. The teachers thought it was going to be back to normal, and then all of a sudden it's just really kind of exploded. And so it's just kind of a tough issue for everybody. So, and kindness is what we need. We need that from parents as well as from, you know, everybody who's involved. So if we can kind of encourage them to realize how hard our staff is working and how hard our nurses are working, the number of hours they're putting in, it would be probably helpful. From what you're saying, I'm really kind of surprised that you're getting this, but it is a shame. Okay.
Thank you.
See if I had a question. Oh, Carrie, that was my question. So your students are remote. Are your staff at the school, or?
No,
Are
we
they-
did ask for them to stay home too, just because we wanted to kind of keep the front end of the school building straight and things. So they are checking in. They're, you know, doing more meetings. They have a remote schedule, so they're doing a lot of time at home. But we are trying to limit the amount of people in the building right now, just to make sure we're there safe and securely away from the building right now. So.
Yeah, I was surprised. I went up Atkinson Street today, and Atkinson Street is open. The traffic was going by. Now, I don't know when they get towards the front of the building if that will be happening, but it was when we went this morning, it was just the back of the building. So.
Yeah, according to the article, they did have to close Atkinson for time.
Yeah.
They had a part of the wall actually escaped the claw and actually took out some utility lines. And then when they decided to close off Atkinson, when they went to take down the bell tower,
Right.
and it actually slipped again, or couldn't grab it, and that came crashing down onto the street. So I think it was, you know, real prudent, and I know, you know, Carrie was a big pusher of it to not have students, you know, there today, and
Absolutely.
you know, and tomorrow gives the crew time to just work and do the things they need to do. So, but I'm glad it's open and no one was hurt, and it's not like it was too disruptive.
Yeah. So,
Just so people know, School Street Extension is closed from the school to Parks Place, all by the Y building. That whole area is closed. And Church Place is now two-way right now because it's a one-way road. And because School Street Extension is closed, Church Place is a two-way road temporarily during the construction or demolition.
Thank you for that information. Appreciate that. Okay. Is there anything else from anyone? Okay, thank you, Carrie. Let's move on to Laura.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Our enrollment is at 74. We too, as you've seen, have had an increase in COVID cases, 16 for the month to date, and therefore an increase in close contacts. We continue to urge close contacts to stay home and quarantine per the Vermont Department of Health. A big thank you to Nurse Jen Vaughn for her constant guidance, dedication, and I will say her humor, which often gets us through stressful times. On November 30th, we had a staff meeting that was all about wellness. Our Path to Wellness building rep, Colleen Gillum, shared a little bit about PATH, and we did some wellness exercises. And I had also invited Kim Jennings of EAP, Employee Assistance Program, and she presented a workshop called Refresh Yourself and Find Joy. So we had an afternoon filled with stress management techniques and taking time to find joy in our lives. Unfortunately, we've had to reschedule our 4th grade free to read every day program due to COVID. We're hoping for a rescheduled date sometime in January. Students are super excited to dress up as their favorite book character for this event, and we are super grateful for the community connection, and I know it will happen soon. On December 8th, I met with Vermont Academy and 2 members of Vermont Academy, not the whole academy, and a few community members from Saxton's River to discuss how we currently use educational spaces and how we could better use and share them in the future, and what would need to happen in order for that to be so. It's a fantastic idea that Christine Armiger from VA proposed, and I'm more than happy to collaborate as building community has so much to offer. We recently held our book fair, which concluded today. Scholastic Book Fair. I coordinated the event as we don't currently have a librarian, as you know, although I will say we've had a few recent applicants, so that's great news. We had 2 anonymous donations, and so every student who was present for in-person learning was able to participate. The book fair was successful despite COVID-related absences. As Carrie mentioned, a huge thank you to Chroma and the Elks for supporting our families and students in need. And as Andy mentioned, we will be hosting vaccine clinics on January 13th and February 6th. Also, thank you to Priscilla. She brought by a plate of homemade treats for staff this morning and a kind note. So people were very grateful for that. And I also want to take a moment to thank our families for their continued support as we work through challenging times. And most of all, I want to send a big shout out to my staff who continue to persevere and provide high quality education, social emotional learning, and true care and compassion to all of our students. I hope you all find peace and joy over the December break. Any questions?
None? Okay. Jason? Jason, any questions?
I do not.
Okay. Thank you, Laura. I was hoping it didn't get mentioned, but thank you anyway. And I only missed Central, and they'll get theirs later in the week. So the VA
Johnson has a question.
space would.
Ms. Johnson.
Oh,
Sorry, I
Ms.
didn't mean to cut you
Johnson?
off. Sorry.
Thank you. I would like to, I apologize that I forgot to mention and give a thanks to Priscilla for the yummy treats and the delightful card. I apologize, Priscilla, but they hit a table in the teacher's room and instantly evaporated. So they were greatly appreciated. Thank you for your kindness.
You guys are certainly welcome, but it didn't need to be discussed here. It was just for you guys to enjoy. Anyway, the VA space, Laura, I'm assuming, is that space at VA that you guys would be using, your students would be using, or what is that encompass?
You think I'd learn to unmute after all this time. Essentially, it's a small group of people in the Saxton's River community getting together to talk about, really all the wonderful educational and community spaces that are available and how we can best utilize them. Vermont Academy is very much open to building a stronger partnership, not just with our school, but Montessori and the Early Learning Center in town, and how to, things that we talked about, like, they have a sugar house there, they have a planetarium there, they have hiking trails, and they're really looking for some community outreach. And we're really looking to push in. And as one of the members stated, it's an opportunity for local students they have a huge international population, obviously when COVID settles down, but what a great way to get to learn, about different cultures as well. So just really building partnerships and how can we work together to support students K through 12.
Okay, great, thank you for that. That was provided a little more information and explained. Anything else for any of our principals? I know the board really appreciates everything that you people are doing to support the students, and you know, if there's anything that we can do in support of you as well, if you continue to reach out to us and let us know, that would be really helpful. Okay. Andy, do you have anything else there under, I know it's principals, but do you have anything else that, you know, we didn't get put on here?
Trying to think of upcoming things. Not off the top of my head. I mean, we have the early release, that's, I think, our big thing, and then,
Okay.
yeah, and then February 20, the only one is February 28th, which was voted on with the, at the SU board, February 28th on our school calendar. We will be updating that over the break here. It's on as a student day, but it has been changed to a professional development day. And the reason for that is the prior administration had planned and purchased professional development for all of our elementary school teachers, and we didn't want to do another half, you know, kind of screwed up day as we go into the dark here. But we're going to utilize that for some school, you know, SU-wide professional development. But it also, so that day, just so families understand, is the Monday after our winter break, and then the next day is town meeting day. So it made sense not to have the students off for a week, come back for one day, go back out for another day, and then start the rest of the week. So it just provided some continuity.
So they would have the week off for the winter break, plus the next Monday and Tuesday. They'll come back on Wednesday or that week, the day after town meeting.
Correct.
And then that February 28th day, they will be going to school at the end of the year.
It will add one day to the end of the year, end of the school year, but it will, trying to think of the dates off the top of my head, I think it's the, it will, instead of adding on the Thursday with a half day, it'll end on the Friday with a half day.
Right.
Does
The Friday before Father's Day.
Yes.
does anybody know why the schools are closed on election day?
On town meeting day. On town meeting day.
The town meeting is at 7:30 at night.
Some of our schools, Grafton in particular, they held their meetings in the school during that day. But also, I think it's an opportunity for our teachers to be able to vote. And if they're in different towns and they have to go distances, they can't always get there.
Voting's the next day.
If they, well,
Voting is the next day.
well, that's the day they're closed. Is that when is the
Tuesday?
The Tuesday is the day they're closed. The day of voting is the day they're closed. They're not closed on Monday as far as staff working. That's what Andy's talking about. They are now going to hold a professional development day that day. But because we have to have so many student days, I was just telling you, they're going to be one day later getting out.
Well, we know the kids are losing so much school time. I just don't like making other days. I think we really need to look again at this, the voting day as a day off. It's kind of
I know,
really silly. It's really silly. The polls are open until 7 o'clock at night, and they're only open from like 7 in the morning to 7 at night, or 8 in the morning to 7 at night. I mean, it's just, maybe in the 50s or 60s, there was more meaning to it, but it just isn't any meaning to it. And I think my concern is the continuity of education for the kids, and finding more excuses. And I think tacking a day on at the end of the school year, you're already losing the kids because of schools coming to an end. You know, I just think that educationally, and that's why we're all here, I think, educationally, I think we got to look at some of these things and question whether these are the right decisions to make educationally, particularly at a time when we're dealing with this COVID-19. So anyway,
So just, if I may, just,
Go ahead.
so I don't disagree with you. I know many other surrounding SUs don't take town meeting day as a day off. I've spoken with the other superintendents. They've talked about sometimes it can be a challenge because you're closing down your gym that day or something like that and having to keep students away from the area. But yeah, I think it's more traditional than it is necessary, personally. The reason for it even coming up this year is because we were going to have to tack on an extra day for our elementary school students because of a purchased professional development with a consultant coming in that we couldn't get a refund on. And so therefore, instead of throwing the money away, we thought we could find an advantage to doing it. But in looking at next year's calendar and developing next year's calendar, we should not run into that same problem. But I mean, yes, right now, we're looking at town meeting day to day off, just more as a tradition, but it's something we can go back and review.
yeah, I hope we will. I think for next year, I think we ought to definitely not do it. And I mean, now if a town, like I don't know, if Westminster votes at the school, I don't know. Certainly in Rockingham, they vote at the Masonic Temple, so there's no interruption of schools, and we'd be better off with kids in school.
Grafton vote has town meeting in the school during the day, on that day. So their school would have to be closed down because they use the entire gym for
That
the
might
day.
be an issue.
There are also teachers in this system that have expressed the fact that they won't be able to vote if they have to be in school that day because they can't get to their meetings. So, I mean, it is a balancing act, but you've got people on both sides of the discussion and both feeling very strongly both ways. So it is something that definitely the SU needs to look at as far as their schedule and what is best. Okay, and thank you though for your comments, Jim, because we certainly need to hear both sides. Okay. Anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, the unfinished business for discussion. I did ask that people hold it if they had questions for the budget. So if at any time you feel that you've got a question from the public that they would like to let us, to comment on, do let us know. Okay, Andy, you said you had some updates.
Yeah,
for
just
us.
just some quick, I'm gonna try to make this a little bigger. I'm getting better at it, I think, Ricky. So I just wanted to just update, one of the things, what happened now, see, Ricky, I screwed it up again, too big. Back here. Now that's really weird, Ricky.
Yeah, well, you got the little slider at the bottom.
What's that?
The slider. You gotta go left.
Oh. Okay, thank you. I got things in the way, so I apologize. So one of the things that I noticed and started working on right now is we're continuing to talk with some people about replacing flora and looking at some things, but I wanted to just bring to your attention. So we went in and started looking at health insurance and our benefits because something just didn't feel right in there. So this top number right here, this is still salaries. We haven't adjusted anything within salaries right now. You know, we mentioned earlier the second grade, and we know that that's a conversation we're still having. But just in looking at the benefits, and what we did was we took what teachers and administrators and staff are already currently paying with benefits and looked at the actuals, and then, you know, took account for what we know are the known raises in health insurance and whatnot. And so what you see there are the two numbers to give you a reflection. The first number on the left, 3 1,378,781 is the number based on what was presented to you earlier. So that's a total of all the health insurance costs there. The number to the right in the H column is the adjusted number, and that health insurance benefits are actually going to cost us.
Is it 985?
It's 231,985, yes. And then as we go down,
Now, is this for all of Rockingham?
this right now you're seeing is just the middle school. I can pull you up, I can jump right to
Okay,
all of Rockingham.
Okay, this is the middle school.
Yep. And so, again, just some adjustments that needed to be made. You can see there's like right here, there's a $2,000 or almost $2,000 increase. And that's in the HRA, what people are actually contributing. And then in FICA, there was an adjustment down. There was a, what is Vistas? There was a miscalculation there because it's actually, there is no cost. So that's an $11,000 found.
No cost for
No cost to the district, correct.
the what's that stand for?
Oh, I was hoping you were going to ask that question.
Sorry.
I honestly, I would have to check with Joe Allen to know exactly what that means.
Non-state teacher retirement.
Okay, so
I think it's Vermont State Retirement System.
The OPEB is specific to a certain thing. So, but then where we also found some need, don't do that, for adjustment. This is like trying to drive a car from somewhere else. That we saw an adjustment was actually in workman's comp. What was actually budgeted was only $14,000, about $15,000, and it's actually going to cost us about $48,000. So we would have, and so by adjusting, we're finding the real numbers.
Right.
So
You're going to you'll send us a new run.
yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to clean this up. So in the end, just to kind of jump, and I'm just going to jump to the comparison piece because I think this is a little easier to kind of see. In the middle school, when we get to all schools here, and I left this up here because I just wanted you to be able to see. And so it's middle school, central, and then Saxons River. That we were able, just by going through health insurance benefits, to find $103,000 in monies we don't need to ask for the taxpayers from the middle school, $129,000 from central.
the 103 is what line?
This is middle school.
So it's no lines, it's the total.
It's the total of savings that we've been able to find.
Okay, that's at the
And
bottom.
central.
Okay, that's,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find it on this sheet so I can look
And
at it.
you'll send us.
Yes, yeah.
67409, 129, 24.
And what is it for central?
For central, it's 129,224.67. And for
Saxons River?
Saxons River is $46,079.11. So the overall money that does not, from the original budget that was proposed to you guys back in the beginning, the overall right now will be down $278,000, $279,000 will be down. And that's just in finding dollars in the health insurance. So, and then what will happen is we found similars, just to update you, we found similars in the SU in the health insurance area. So as we work through that, that's going to draw down the assessment of the SU, just the overall cost of the SU. So.
And you said you will send us,
Yep, so I gotta clean this up some more. I wanna, trying to think of the best way to present it to you so it makes sense, because I want you to be able to see the progression that's going on, as opposed to just some automatic change number. So, so that's why I left it here. So what you see here in column E, where it says difference, that's what was presented at the last time we met. And then that difference is actually, it's not $45,000 up, it's actually down $103,000, if that makes sense. So this line right here, or this column, was originally what was presented to the board.
12.6.
Yes. And so this was the totals of where the budgets were coming in for each building. And where the actual totals are coming in is, as I said, so the middle school is actually going to be down $103,000, and Central is actually down $129,000, and Saxon's River is actually down $46,000. And so that's just in finding some accounting changes and whatnot, but
I know it's a big job, but we would really appreciate you working on this.
no, but we want to make sure we are, providing the most accurate budget we can provide to the taxpayers. I mean,
That's the goal. That's the goal.
So,
and we are continuing to work with the auditors. They're finalizing audits and whatnot. Their goal was to start with the SU because that was the biggest, the biggest budget, and everything else kind of flows from there. And so doing the reconciliations and finding the reconciliations. Another one that was kind of was discovered was the 7th and 8th grade tuition from Westminster and Grafton, Athens and Grafton, hadn't been reconciled. So essentially, there'd been no bill to Westminster or Athens and Grafton for any 7th and 8th graders that came to the middle school. And so once that gets reconciled, that's going to, of course, increase that bottom line or revenue source of that Rockingham has in the end. So,
Andy, when I was on the board before, one of the things that we did as part of the budget process, near the end of the budget process, was the board would vote on the tuition rate for the next year. Like I said, I haven't been on the
we have
board,
to do that.
but you have done that. Okay, so that's something that we'll be looking for, as part
so
of.
you'll be looking for a recommendation?
Yes.
Is that, okay.
Correct. There's usually a couple
What we did last year was we kept it, I think, the same as the previous year, last year. And I know when we were talking about students coming in August, I had looked it up at that point to make sure that we were accurate on what we were telling people as far as coming. So we had that figure at that time, and it was out there. I have it in an email if there's any questions on that.
Yeah, no, I'll get it from Nicole, but I appreciate that. It gets it on my radar, so we'll make sure we have a recommendation with that.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anything else we can do on budget tonight?
Unfortunately, no, and I apologize for that.
That's okay. We know you're working. We know with what's happened in the last couple of weeks, it's, there's a lot to be taking in, and I know you've been working really hard on this, so.
You might want to
Our full budget meeting will be January 3rd, when we'll be working almost solely on budget that night. Because this is supposed to be our regular meeting, but we just wanted a quick update tonight, so we appreciate that. Jim, did you have a question?
No, that's good. I think that's the way to leave it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we have And do we have anything from anyone out there in the public that had any other questions for tonight?
I don't think there's any public.
I don't think
But,
so either, but if somebody emailed in,
Yep.
I want to be sure to give them a chance. All right, so new business for discussion and action. A, we have a donation from River Charities for $2,000 that's to go to the activity fund. Can I have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to accept the donation from River Charities, Inc. of $2,000 for
Used for the activity fund.
activity.
That's what it's printed on the check.
Okay.
Okay, any discussion on that?
Do we know who or what?
To the
River
middle
Charities,
school. It's
Inc.?
going to the middle school.
Do we know what this organization is? Do we know anything?
I don't, Sue, do you have any more information?
Yes, it's from the check for $2,000 is from Salmon and,
Ostrand.
yes, thank you. It appears to be an ongoing annual donation to our student activities account. And we divide the money between the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students.
Great, thank you.
Activity lines.
Any other questions? If not, I'm going to call the vote. Jason Benson?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Okay, and yes, so that has been accepted. Good. All right, so Andy, you had a question on the early release discussion. We didn't add it on adjustments. Did we add it during adjustments, or do we need to add it now?
No, we added it during adjustments to
During adjustments,
8B.
okay. All right, yeah, we must have, because I wrote it on here. All right, sorry. You had some discussion on an early release, just,
Yep, so we had proposed back with the SU, at the SU meeting, back when we were talking about February 28th, is taking the second Wednesday,
third.
the second Wednesday, starting in January, to use as an early release day so that we could do SU-wide professional development around social emotional practices, so that because we are continuously dealing with an ongoing need of our students, and we felt that there was a real need to do some purposeful PD, and that there is no, time is a commodity, and trying to find that time is really difficult. And I think we missed an opportunity back during the summer to kind of plan for this. As you kind of earlier said, we all had this optimistic view of what the year was going to be like. So we're really feeling like there's a need to do this. And then what we found out at the SU board was each individual board needed to adopt it. The Westminster and the Athens Graph, so the elementary board did adopt it. So did the high school board. The caveat, though, that the elementary board asked was that meaningful programming for optional for parents, who the early release would be a burden. And so we're working on trying to develop that. Originally, my proposal was to start this in January. We just will not have time with that stipulation to be able to offer any type of enrichment programming with the holidays. We just don't have the time to build it. So we would we're asking for, for early release, so an adjustment to calendars for early release, that would be in February, March, April, and May, so that we could focus on that social emotional practices.
And what do you mean by early release?
My understanding, so students would come in, they have to stay a certain number of hours. So I think because each building is a little different, I don't know if any of the principals, I don't know off the top of my head each building's early release, but it's like around noonish time. And so students they come in for a half a day, or a little bit more, and then they go home, and then we use that time for professional development, having the teachers in the building. So it's not costing any additional to the district to provide that professional development.
Do our principals have that information as to when the time frame?
At Saxon's River, our early release time is 11:45 because Central, I believe, releases at 11:30. So just thinking about busing because the buses come to us afterward.
And the middle school?
11:30.
1:30, so.
What do the principals think of this? Our three principals.
Yeah, no, it has.
What's your-
This is Sue. I think it's critically important and a long time coming. We have some students in crisis, and as educators, we need time to learn some strategies so that we can help our students to be successful. I think it's a very important amount of time that we invest in our learning, so as professionals, so that we can help our students.
I would echo Sue's comments. There's a lot of trauma-informed teaching that we are working on, restorative practices, and just getting the students the social emotional support that they need, and building our tiered system of support for all of our students and staff would be appreciative. We do understand the burden it puts on the families in particular, so we are trying to work on supporting that.
Yeah, and I echo what Carrie and Sue said, and I think it's a great complement to the work that the elementary schools are doing with Responsive Classroom. So it's not an add-on, but a complement to that work, and learning additional skills about restorative practices, which couple so well with responsive classroom techniques.
Mr. Huss, what are your plans as far as what you're doing for the optional enrichment for students? Are there para support that are going to cover that? Are there volunteers that are needed?
Well, so we haven't even gotten, so that was honestly a curveball that the elementary board kind of threw at us. So we've had some initial discussions about how to do that, because part of the problem is we need our paraprofessionals to be a part of this learning.
Sure.
And, the immediate is to have the paraprofessionals. There had been some discussion about, could we get parent volunteers to come in? We would have to then deal with all of the fingerprinting and a lot of logistics of just bringing volunteers in at that rate. And now you're dealing with Omicron and whatnot, so it's complicating it quite a bit, and that's why we realize we can't do something by January. We need more planning time, and so that was what we're talking about is working with some of our local providers, that the Nature Museum up in Grafton, and bringing them in and partnering with them, perhaps some other programming that we can bring in people from the outside that could provide some of the structure and whatnot. So it's not just playtime.
Yeah, I think I think, obviously, I appreciate the need. I appreciate the need for this. My concern, again, is that it's less time for students in classrooms. It's a burden to parents, because a lot of parents work, and so this puts an additional burden on them. And again, there's a bit of concern on my part when I hear 5 years later that differentiating instruction isn't being embraced as much as it should be because of our kids and the differences that they bring to the classroom. It's hard not to be a little bit questioning as to how effective these sessions are. How much of a buy-in do the teachers give these very necessary instructions? And I imagine I imagine if a teacher doesn't go there, it's an unexcused absence or whatever. But I think that the school system needs to be sensitive to concerns on the part of the public, parents, about the effectiveness of these programs and the buy-in of the staff to these programs. And I think it's something that we need to take to heart. We need to be able to communicate with our publics about that. And so anyway, if it's necessary, obviously, I guess we have to do it. I'm less concerned about having a play day at the Grafton Park or whatever. Because I agree with you, the entire staff needs to be educated on these things.
And really the plan is that everyone in the SU is focused on doing the same thing. And in my tenure here, often when we're doing this, we might have the elementary school teachers are working on one thing, the middle school teachers are working on another thing, and the high school teachers are on a third thing. We're not all focused on one singular need. And we're looking to partner with the Greater Falls Criminal Justice Group, and also with the Greater Falls, right on my head.
Connections?
Yes, and with Carrie Newton, and really, who works for us, but really bringing together a focused, how do we provide teachers the tools to work with students? Because when students are not socially or emotionally ready for learning, they're unable to learn. And then we're ending up with a higher rate of discipline and students dysregulated and out of the class. So we're trying to build in some measures, some scaffolding, so that our teachers can work with those students. We're going to continue to do this work no matter what. So whether we have early release days or not, the problem there is we're going to get those who've already drank the Kool-Aid. Those teachers who believe in this are going to come to these kind of things, and they're going to find the time, and we're going to do that. Here we have an opportunity to have all of our teachers focused on that piece. So I hear your concern about the buy-in and not having teachers, and that's really where my focus is that we are all doing the same thing.
I guess my concern is the students out that we're experiencing that emotional need. We need the professional development from one side, but we also need our students to be in school from the other side. I don't know how we manage to do that unless we find some way of covering them and doing instruction, in sessions or something. I guess I'd like more information on how we're going to handle stuff for those students, especially with Grafton and Westminster and Athens voting to be sure that we're supporting those students. I'd like to know more about what we're doing to take care of that, or if we're not doing anything, I need to know that as well, just before, we make a decision. So I'm kind of sitting here wondering.
Well, we're not going to do it if we can't get the meaningful engagement. So if we can't build it, we're not going to do it, because that's what Westminster, or what the elementary union voted on. So therefore, it's kind of it's kind of a cart before the horse thing here, to go out and expend with the limited time we have, just as administration right now, dealing with all the stuff, to really invest an enormous amount of time into getting people and securing funds, using ESSER funds to bring people in, that it's going to be a huge focus to try and do that and to find the people to do everything. And if I can't get it done and I'm waiting for everyone else to vote on it, I need to know I can move ahead with it. If I can't move ahead with it, then I'm not going to do it. And I don't want to invest my time. And I guess that's how I'm trying to explain it. Like, it's going to take a tremendous investment of time to organize now with this meaningful engagement. And I can devote my own personal resources and our staff's resources in other directions. And so if we can't build it, we're not going to do it. And we're just going to be honest that we can't find the people to do it, and we're just going to have a full day anyway. But if I've got to wait for Rockingham to vote on it, it's going to be February, and I'm not going to be able to do it in February because there's so much planning that now will have to go into this. We don't have an after-school coordinator. So I don't have another person to devote to design that. So it's going to have to come. I'm going to have to find time to work on building it, and I'm going to have to ask principals and other staff. And so, I mean, I guess I'm just saying, I just need an up or down at this point, because I don't want to move forward if I'm going to wait another month and find out that, no, we're not going to do it because we don't think it's engaging enough. I guess I'm asking for a little bit of faith. We will come back and tell you exactly what we're doing. And if we cannot provide it, we're going to be saying we can't provide it.
Okay, well, that's a reasonable answer, Mr. Huss. I was looking at the fact that our next meeting was January 3rd, and whether you could provide us some of that information.
I'm being honest, I'm not going to have anything by January 3rd.
Okay.
I mean, we're going to have some stuff, but I have a couple meetings this week to start talking about this stuff. But that if we're at a point where it's kind of, can we move forward? We don't know if we're going to move forward. Other providers are going to, they need to put their resources other places too. So.
Okay, so you're talking about providers to come in and present the professional development, or you're talking about providers to come in?
We have
and
both.
support?
We have to build the PD,
Okay.
and we have to build the enrichment program. So we're building two things at the exact same time.
Okay. And so the enrichment program would be for all students
It would
in
be
all
for-
the districts?
It wouldn't be for all students. It would be for those parents
That need
who
it.
opt for it.
Okay.
So we would present what we're providing, and then parents can make a choice if they want to have their kids, attend. And it may look different at each building, just because you might work with, let's say, 6 different people, and we figure out some plan, and we rotate around, and they go to a different building each month, kind of thing. So every kid gets access to the same stuff. So that's some of the stuff we've talked about. It's just the providers aren't or the organizations, I can't keep straight in my head right now. I'll be able to tell you who we've all talked to.
Well, I'll make a motion.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion that we, to support the early release for professional development as recommended by the superintendent. And I specifically am not going to urge that we adopt a gifted and talented
Enrichment, let's call it enrichment, if that's okay with you.
I think the focus needs to be on training the staff, and I think you've got enough to worry about. And if we get that right, then the kids are going to benefit, and we don't need to go running around the neighborhood trying to find activities. So I'd make a motion to support the early release for professional development.
The four times. The 4 times.
Exactly, yeah, for those February through May.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
thank you for that. Appreciate that. Is there any other discussion? Okay, let's vote. Jason?
Actually, I did have one question. I just wanted to ask Andy, is that
Okay.
sufficient? Do you need more from us? Is there anything else you need from us to make this happen?
No, that is sufficient.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're all set. And I think we asked enough questions, so we're fine. All right, so we're up to director's comments. We'll follow that with an executive session. The next meeting, let me set that though, that's the next thing, is January 3rd at 5:30, and that is geared to looking at budget. Okay, so director's comments. Jason?
Sure. Well, I hope that this year's education is actually moving forward with these kids and they're not just idling along. And certainly they do need the emotional and behavioral support that they are getting while being in schools. But I don't know if there's going to be some point in time we're able to look back and see where we are and where we need to be. Maybe this spring going into the time off over the summer. And it's a long ways out yet, but it's just curious at this point to see how we're doing. That's all. And thank you everybody for hanging in there and making it happen. You're doing good.
Thank you, Jason. Jim?
Just to the parents out there, please, please get your children vaccinated.
And my comment would be just work on being as kind as you can to your staff, to your administrators, to your students, and to the parents and the community members as well. Because if we can share that kindness, especially at this holiday type time of year, then we have done a great service to everyone. I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss negotiations and personnel issue where the premature public knowledge could place the board and/or individuals at a disadvantage.
So moved.
And Andy is invited. Jason, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Yes, and we're in executive session.